Hello, students. In the last video, we introduced set builder notation in math, which hopefully you've seen before if you've had some math, maybe not, and set comprehensions in Python, which was Python's version of the same thing. But we introduced this range to help us out. For instance, let's say I want the squares of the first three, I don't know, 3-digit numbers. Or no, let's do the first 23-digit numbers. So I would do the range from 100 to 120. And now why would this give me the first 20 numbers? Well, remember, this works as a half open interval from 100 to 120. So what this is going to do is it's going to start with 100 and it's going to end at 119. And that gives us 20 numbers because we start with a 0 on the right. We couldn't end with a 0 on the right in that little group. So if I do this, I get, well, exactly that. The squares of the first 20 3-digit numbers. Okay, but what is this mysterious range thing? Well, one thing that we can do in Python, like Python could make a set out of this and then just stick that set in here, but you'll see it doesn't because we have our type dir and help that we can always return to. And if I want to know, like, let's say I have my little, what is this? Oh, it's a range, so it's not a set. So far we've seen integers, we've seen floats, we've seen tuples, we've seen sets, and now we have range, which seems to be its own thing. Well, what can we do with a range? Well, we know how to deal with that too. I could either do dir range, or I could even put the range statement here, the actual physical range from 100 to 120. It doesn't change anything. What it's going to do is it's going to give me the directory of all these different built-in things that I can do with range. And you'll see I have things here like contains, which I can check out here. We can see whether something's in a range. Well, let's check that out. Let's see, I don't know, is 5 in the range from 0 to 5? Now, you know that once again, this is a half open, half closed interval, closed on the left, open on the right. So 5 should not be in this range. So the statement 5 being in the range, that has to be false. But if I want to check if 0 is in the range from 0 to 5, that has to be true. And similarly, if something more obvious is in the range, but the range is only integers, so if I want to see, hey, is this float in the range from 0 to 5? False. Because even if this was an interval of real numbers, then sure, you get everything in between, but range just takes the integers. Okay, what else did we see in this long list? Let's see. Oh, we got index. So we can actually take a certain element from the range. So for instance, let's say I wanted the range of -10 to 10, and let's just take that. Oh, it's telling me it's a range from -10 to 10. Okay, it's not telling me what the elements are in that. But let's say I want, let's say the lowest element in there. Well, I can index and grab the first element. Remember that Python always counts at 0, so I get -10. And if I want the next element, I could do 1, just like this was a tuple, but not sets. Remember, we don't have index for sets. So this is something else we can do with range. Now, let me tell you this. After introducing it, we're not going to really do this much. We're not going to do this much. We're not going to do this. We're not going to be using ranges too much to check to see if something's in a range because it's kind of obvious, right? We can see which numbers are in the range. And we're not going to really be doing much stuff like this either. We will be grabbing elements from a range for different things, including set comprehensions a lot. So let's just do one more example with range. Let's say I want, I don't know, let's say I want the collection of all differences that are 1 apart of squares. So I want to take, for a number x, I want to take x plus 1 squared minus x squared. And I want to do this for x in the range. Let's do, say, the first 20 non-negative integers. So I'm going to go from 1 to 20. 1, I want to include 20. So I want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 all the way up to 20. So in order to do that, I would do this, and that's what I would get. Now, of course, algebraically, I could write this out. Like, why are we getting all these odd numbers? If I wanted to write this out algebraically, I could just simplify the algebra here because this is x squared, and I have a negative x squared there, so that goes away. So what would I have left here? Well, I'd have 2x plus 1. So this should be the same as 2x plus 1, and if I hit enter, that's what I get. Now, suppose I just wanted to start at 0. Well, Python has a shortcut for that. If you stick one number in, and only one number in your range, Python's just going to assume you start at 0. After all, Python likes to count from 0, so why not assume range starts at 0 if you only have one number? So let's see what I get here. I should get something slightly different. I end at the same point, right, because this is still going to be open on the right. But I'm now starting at 0, so this starts off with 2 times 0 plus 1, which gives me the value 1. So you'll see set comprehensions, and hopefully you're getting a little more comfortable with them in these examples. And range is just something that we use to get stuff to grab and put in them. So one more time, in Python, this tells us that it's a set comprehension. These are the things that are going into the set, right? We're sort of mapping these x's, and which x's are we mapping? Well, we're mapping x's from this range. And when I write range 21, it's going to be all the numbers from 0 through 20.